Greetings! I'm Andy Looney, inventor of the card game Fluxx. For years, fans have been telling us that we should have a Cthulhu version of Fluxx, but I could never design it myself because I never got around to reading all those creepy old stories. So we enlisted the help of my lifelong friend Keith Baker, who's also a game inventor himself and a noted expert on all things Cthulhu. Here's Keith to tell you all about it.
Howard Phillips Lovecraft is one of the most influential horror writers of the 20th century. Many of his stories deal with themes of cosmic horror, the idea that ancient and terrible forces from beyond time and space are lurking in the shadows and waiting for the right moment to destroy us all. The worst of these is Cthulhu. Cthulhu is an ancient being, so powerful that he cannot be destroyed. Currently, he is dead but dreaming, trapped in his sunken city and held at bay by the Elder Sign. However, with strange eons, even death may die, and when the stars are right, Cthulhu will rise again, and the world will be doomed.
So, Cthulhu is basically Godzilla with a tentacle mustache.
Sure. Yeah, close enough.
Once Keith was on board, the first step was to identify the things that really define the genre and then figure out how to translate those into Fluxx mechanics.
One of the fundamental aspects of Lovecraft's stories is that we are on the brink of cosmic destruction. Normal people read the wrong book or encounter something horrible and learn just how fragile reality is, something that may drive them mad. From the beginning, I wanted Cthulhu Fluxx to reflect this fundamental theme. We may be competing against each other, but if Cthulhu rises, we're all doomed.
To emphasize the inevitable doom, we decided to make Cthulhu Fluxx heavy on the ungoals, these being the end conditions where all players lose. There have only been 2 of these so far in the whole history of Fluxx, one in Zombie Fluxx and one in Martian Fluxx. But Cthulhu Fluxx has 4 ungoals.
In Lovecraft's stories, people learn about the dangers over time. We wanted to mirror that with the ungoals. The Dunwich Horror requires Yog-Sothoth to be on the table, but it also requires at least 6 doom points. Doom points can be found on keepers and creepers, and there are a few comforting things that counter doom points. So as the game goes on, you need to keep an eye on the doom total. The Necronomicon's a great card, but you could doom us all by playing it.
The doom counters and their relentless march toward the much more likely ungoals are just a few of the cool new things you will find in Cthulhu Fluxx. There is also a number of cards that encourage players to reveal some of the things they are most afraid of and to remember what things their opponents find terrifying. But perhaps the coolest new card is a surprise called the Secret Cultist. Surprises were first introduced in Pirate Fluxx, and everyone really loves being able to play these cards out of turn to cancel someone else's action or even reverse it into something that causes you to win. So in Cthulhu Fluxx, there's a surprise called the Secret Cultist, which allows you to win if the ungoal is met, since the Secret Cultist actually wants to bring about the end of the world. Unlike other surprises, the during your turn part of this surprise is actually bad. You lose your next turn, since it's not good to have your cover blown when you're trying to bring about the end of the world. But sometimes you really need to have an actual winner no matter what, like if it's a tournament or other high-stakes game. So for these cases, we included a meta rule called Cult Clash. When this is in play, the most doomed player is declared the winner if an ungoal would otherwise cause all players to lose.
One of the other questions we had to address was whether people could play the game if they never read any of Lovecraft's stories.
Yes, this was of particular concern to me, given my own lack of familiarity with the subject matter. Even if I know who Cthulhu is, won't I find the rest of the game bewildering?
We tried various approaches and found a good middle ground. Some of the cards represent generic elements that appear in multiple stories. The body is useful if you need something to reanimate, but it can also be that thing you find on your doorstep. Most of the characters are investigators, these being folks who've learned secrets mankind was not meant to know, and who are trying to hold back the forces of doom, or perhaps to help with the doom's arrival. Each character has both a name and a title, such as Henry Armitage, the librarian, Richard Pickman, the artist, and Zadook Allen, the drunk.
This works well because it boils the elements down into archetypal characters you can accept at face value, even if you don't recognize the names from the stories. It's like when someone's telling you a joke. Okay, a librarian, an artist, and a drunk walk into a sanitarium.
And for those of us who do know the stories, you know exactly which librarian, artist, and drunk we were thinking of.
Okay, so there's a preview for you of Cthulhu Fluxx. Thanks for helping us design it, Keith. And also, thanks to Derek Ring for doing the awesome artwork. Get ready to try Cthulhu Fluxx, if you dare!
Looney Labs!